Good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for our first masterclass for the season on liberal arts and management recipe for success in the new world. The masterclass series is an online learning suite for postgraduate program aspirants as well as corporate executives, where you could pick up new skills that can help you ameliorate your entire profile in a much better manner. For the first session today, I have with me Professor Dwarika Unyal, the Dean for the Faculty of Business at FAME University. So, will be speaking to us about a topic that's been picking up quite steam across the last few months as well, and earlier as well. There's no denying that management cannot be compartmentalized as a finance problem or as a marketing problem or as an HR problem. You always require perspectives which are outside of management as well to look at the problem in its holistic approach. And to talk about this and much more, I would like to now let Professor Dwarika take over and take you guys through the session particularly. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Anju, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to this interesting, exciting session about understanding management, understanding business, understanding the nuances of learning business. And as Anju has clearly said, in last couple of months, I think there has been a humbling experience for a lot of us to go back and reflect about what's been happening in the world of business, how economy has reacted to the crisis, how students and colleges and universities have trying to transform themselves into understanding the needs and the requirements of a new age student. Before I start, I'm basically a storyteller, disguised as a college dean, university dean. So I love sharing stories. So probably I will start with a non-MBA story, non-management story, something which I picked up from a remote country out there in Africa called Addis Ababa in one particular night when I was traveling almost years back. And what that one night learning has taught me about what does it really take to make an interesting business out of nowhere. So let's start. And I hope to start this. As Anju has said, so just a brief background. I've been teaching in top business schools like the IIMs, SPGen, MICA for last 20 years. As you see that I also happen to be an entrepreneur. I work as advisors to companies, independent directors for the Government of India. I'm an author of a couple of books, and I also happen to be a poet. Now, this is not to tell you that, I'm a great guy, I'm not, but to tell you that many of these things emerge out of my own passion from various different domains which I've learned over the years, okay? And each one of these domains helped me become a better teacher, a better human being. And let me give you an example. When I was growing up in a very, very small town in remote Rajasthan 35 years ago, when I was 10 years old, I started writing poetry, okay? And I never realized that how this small act of writing poetry will help me someday. So when I went to college, I got an opportunity to work in a radio station in Rajasthan. And the first thing they asked me is to do a poetry show among the youth. So my work was helped by the fact that I could write poetry and I could bring poets along with, and then hence make a business out of it. Because of the fact that I wrote poetry, advertising came along. And they said, since you write poetry, why can't you write something of a narrative or a story, for example, for us. Now, telling narratives and stories don't come naturally to many of us. And that's why it's important to fine-tune, hone these skills along with all what you're doing in your life. So I'm going to start my talk today with one of the most inspirational person I've ever met in my life, and that's not Steve Jobs for a change. That's not Bill Gates for a change. That's not Mukesh Ambani Saab for a change. For me, the most inspirational person as a business guy is this person called Ababu Abbas. Ababu does one of the most mundanes of the job you could ever imagine. अब जूता पॉलिश करने में क्या मजा है जिंदगी में? You can ask, right? End of the day, what are you doing? You're just essentially polishing your shoes. And many of us hate doing that, right? Some of us over in school, or now I have to dress up formally sometimes. Like today, you have to polish your shoes. You don't like that. So I was traveling from Africa. I had a stopover at Addis Ababa. And I was sitting at that particular chair, which you could very well see. It's 1 a.m, when I started observing this guy called Ababu Abbas, which I came to know much later. I have never seen anyone in my life polishing shoes as if that's the best job in the world. But that's not where the story is. The story is that as I observed him over the period of another hour or so, I realized that he could speak 4 languages. Now, how did this guy pick up language skills? He was doing one of the most unskilled jobs one could ever imagine. Might not have gone to a college or otherwise. I just assumed all of this. But then I realized that many of those people who were frequent travelers and traveling via Addis Ababa were his loyal customers. They were coming again and again to Ababu to get their shoes shined, and all age, demographics, races, and country they came from. I also observed that he was apologizing to a German lady. I was intrigued. Why is he apologizing? And he says to the lady in English, which I could pick up from a distance. And he said, I'm learning German. And probably next time you come to this place, I would converse with you in German. So at around 2:30 in the morning, he was about to leave his place. I approached him and I told him and I asked him that I'd been observing you for an hour or so, and you seem to be a very, very remarkable person. And I said, is this your shoe counter? Or do you own it, or are you just working here and all that stuff? He turned around to me and said, he's like 6 feet 2 inches, pretty tall guy. He looked down upon me and said, what do you mean by shoe counter? This is my business proposition. Now, being a business professor, I'm used to using jargons, but somebody who had not imagined I would throw back that jargon back at me, and I was startled. I said, okay, so tell me about your business proposition. He said, Addis Ababa airport did not have a shoe counter. As I flew in, flew out to the places, he realized that a lot of people were actually looking for something like this. And he was able to convince the authorities to let him open up this small place where he had 3 seats where he could do it. Then I spoke to him more. So cut the long story short, he had 3 such counters over a period of 1 year. On an average, he and his colleagues work for 15 hours a day. On an average, he charges $4 to shine shoes. This looks pretty steep. But then people who are flying in international airports are ready to pay you that kind of money. Especially if they have some business in the next flight or something else and so on and so forth. My back of paper envelope calculation told me that this small time shoe shine guy like Ababu Abbas is earning close to around $80,000 to $110,000 in USD terms in Ethiopia by shining shoes. Okay. He ended up becoming quite a celebrity. And there are a couple of programs are also there on him in the local business news channels. Okay, he showed it to me. He said, Professor, so I told him I'm a professor, I teach it. I wrote a story about it, and a lot of my students in the IIMs and Flame and other places actually ended up getting this guy's story. Some of them actually flew to those places and they ended up meeting this guy as well. So what did this guy tell me? He taught me. So the learnings from him was that commitment to an idea, even if it looks small and ordinary innovation, leads you to some place. Understanding customers and empathy is most important thing. Being happy and cheerful while doing your job is also very, very critical. No job is a small job. Shining shoes might look mundane to us, but for Abbas, it's almost $1 million business in years to come. And last but not the least, for a lot of us who want to become entrepreneurs over a period of time in life, you don't always get $1 million ideas. You make your ideas worth $1 million, like Ababu has done to us. The story doesn't stop here. So Ababu is a very close friend of mine now. Every time any of my friends or students, they pass through Addis Ababa airport, they gift him a business book. So every time he says, Professor, send me business books from India, people go there. He also ended up doing his MBA from a local university. He used to go during weekends to study his MBA. He's now written to me that he's seeking guidance to finally do his PhD as well. He said, Prof, I would not want to become a prof, but I want to do a PhD and write a thesis about the business model he has. Okay. Now, why did I share this story to you guys, with you guys? I could have picked up any other business story all around and made a case out of it. First, this is a story from the streets of Addis Ababa. Small place, small guy, working very hard. But look at why is he successful? He's successful for a lot of other skills which you and I wouldn't have realized he would have acquired over a period of time. Number one, his ability to understand consumer psychology. Very, very, very critical. Second, his ability to pick up languages and speak with them. Third, he is a brilliant actor because when nobody was there on his counter, I observed him and he was roaming out close to his counter in various different voices and impersonation ways. He was actually attracting people to come to his counter. He's a strapping 6-foot guy speaking in amazing, amazing different languages and bringing people to his counter. He's a tremendous actor. Okay. Yet he has a great business brain and completely ingenuity to try and do things very, very, very differently. Okay. Now, this is what is needed in our larger world of understanding business. Business is not about understanding mere economics, mathematics, or understanding a bit of finance. Business is all about understanding your consumers' needs, empathizing with them, deeply studying them, understanding the consumer anthropology, sociology, and psychology of it. Develop all-round skills so that when you are able to create a business or you work in an organization, you're able to really outperform others because of your other skills. You know, I've been to many, many, many different places in my life. And one of the things which really helped me connect with local students and local faculty, and I've taught at 55 different places across 4 countries, is to pick up the language. That's so critical. Second, try and understand who your consumer is. If my consumer is, or my customer happens to be a student, for example, I don't speak my language. I try and understand their language and speak that particular language. And why is it important? Because first and foremost, you have to develop deep-rooted consumer empathy. And that comes only when you actually invest time, effort, energy in understanding the other side. So there are lots and lots of other skills and other behavioral aspect you pick up when you look at management education, not from a mere silo of acquiring an MBA degree, which happens in many different places, but try and reimagine this whole thing. So I'm going to present a new model to you, something which we've been pioneering here at Flame, but of course in my other experiences as well across, I will try and share it with you guys. So many of you who really want to make your career in, business, or some of you already happen to be, have realized that post-pandemic, many of us have been struggling in a new reality of the business world. All right. No longer people are asking you what degree you have done. They're asking complex questions. They're asking that, can you stay emotionally stable? Do you have, or have you trained yourself into making a judgment? Can you take a complex decision? Can you think and evaluate things very critically? And can you come up with interesting, divergent, creative ideas and solutions to certain things? Now, increasingly, this is what the business world has been asking the current managers and the incumbent MBA students or current MBA students again and again and again. I've been teaching in business schools, all shapes, size, and kinds for the last 20 years. And I've seen this demand of industry changing. Initially, they would wanted a student who would know his subject. Are you trained in marketing? Do you know enough marketing concepts? Can you create a marketing plan? Are you trained enough to implement it? How much of accounts and finance do you understand? Do you know your formulas? Can you solve a complex finance problems or a operations problem? As long as you're coming from a decent business school, they're okay. But I think that's changing over a period of time. People are questioning the current method of learning these subjects. People are asking these questions that how much of what you've learned have you even practiced ever in your life? Have you ever been able to or exposed to while you were studying into doing things, not just learning things? So how much of that learning is coming to be? That's one. SHRM tells us that these are the missing skills in job applicants now: problem solving, ability to deal with complexity and ambiguity. COVID does not give you any clear answers. Even today, we are struggling with ambiguity. What will happen to economy? What will happen to the jobs? What will happen to many different things? And hence, over a period of time, people have realized that it's not just the subject matter expertise which will help people to become better managers. What is also needed is to train self or create an ecosystem which trains you into thinking very differently. So ऐसा नहीं है कि MBA colleges have not been thinking about it. One of my old institution, SP Jain, has started bringing some liberal arts elements in MBA. Kozhikode has launched an MBA Liberal Studies in Management. There's a separate MBA program they've launched. Harvard has an interesting program called the Moral Leader. MIT Sloan teaches theater. California has got storytelling. This is something which, of course, is being built inherently at Flame, over a period of time. But yeah, that's interesting to see that people are waking up to these nuances and new things when they come up with. So how would you try to see your life in management education parlance, that over a period of time, can I become a business leader? Irrespective of the domain you are in, right? I am a business leader because I manage a university as a dean, for example, right? Somebody could be managing an edtech company. Somebody could be managing a shoe company. Somebody could be managing a masala company. What are those critical things which are critical for us to look at? Do we take risks? Now, this has been a biggest criticism of an MBA program all around the world has been that MBA programs, including at Harvard and IIMs and other places, don't teach you to become a risk taker. Now, how could you do this? That's very, very, very critical. Second, how do you develop an entrepreneurial mindset in these students? Or even when you are working, how do you develop an entrepreneurial mindset? Let me give an example. Many years ago, I was setting up a business school in Himachal. Very small business school, not an IIM or a MICA where I used to work earlier, or SP Jain. Nobody knew us. I had very brilliant, kids, not a great percentile at that time. But they were entrepreneurial in mindset. They were small town kids, but they had entrepreneurial mindset. They might not have cracked 99 percentile, but they had some interesting ideas about them. So when we started talking about what to do after your first year, should we send you to a summer internship? Some of the students came around and said, "Sir, humko acha project nahi milne wala. We are a small town place." I agreed to them because that's how companies think. Luckily, I was doing consulting for a large telecom company at that point of time, which was very, very forthcoming company, almost a decade and a half back. And some of those things were that they wanted to understand small town consumer behavior for mobile services. I said, rather than me giving you a gyan about what's really happening, understanding youth, I will bring all my students to you. And all of your 40 managers, right from senior manager to the marketing director and a CMO, you will get access to these 40, 50 students and have an engagement with them for 2 hours. They will tell you how consumer behavior has changed while you are making marketing strategies sitting in your offices. And after 2 hours, we had reconvened the meeting of all the marketing people. And they were blown away. They said, these guys gave us such insights about their lives that we could have never, ever imagined doing it. And I said, why did you not have this insight in first place? And that pat came the reply that we thought very, very conventionally in a typical, straight-jacketed manner. We would have never imagined that in order to understand, probably we need to go out and speak to these guys in the environments where these guys are, because these are your target audiences. So that gave us a great idea. And we scrapped the summer internship and we essentially formed a small company on campus called Walk the Talk. I put in some money, students put in their money, and we ended up pitching our company. It was a marketing communications company to a American company's India's representative called OXO. These guys used to make kitchen knives and peelers and amazing products. OXO, amazing company. Check it out. So for 3 months, we actually mapped 3 cities of Chandigarh, Mohali, Panchkula. We interviewed 3,000 customers, 40 retailers, and almost 10 distributors. And then we created end-to-end marketing solutions. And then we also put merchandise worth 2 lakh rupees in the market. We sold the products. The very reason why I'm telling you all this is the fact that for the first time ever, and when I presented this case about how a student needs to take risk and become entrepreneurial mind, to a lot of top schools, they were kind of startled. And I'm of the belief that this is what is needed for all of us to start looking at it. So a lot of times people tell you that this is business, this is official, don't take it personally. I'm of the belief that a new age manager has to be passionate about it. If work takes almost 40–50% of our life, and if work is not personal, then we don't have heart in it. Which means, how do you develop these capabilities in a new age manager is very, very, very critical. Second, nothing is certain today. Nothing is certain today. So how do you work in ambiguity? Unless you train yourself to work in ambiguity, unless you are comfortable in ambiguity, unless you're comfortable in grays, not everything is black and white. I think it will be very, very difficult for all of us to survive in the coming years. Yet at the same time, a leader has to be a critical thinker, right? Evaluate, objective, right? Not just go by what people are saying and others. What are the new age abilities? See new opportunities. Socially conscious. When I teach marketing today, we are questioning the marketing campaigns. We're questioning the marketing new products. We're questioning the sustainability of these brands. One of my favorite brands is being criticized big time in my undergraduate class and postgraduate class at Flame in last semester, called Zara. They are into fast fashion. But students have come back to me and said, but that's not very sustainable fashion. They kind of look at their practices, look at their manufacturing, look at what's really happening, and they're not very environmentally conscious. So people are becoming a lot more socially conscious, both as the consumers and producers of products and services. So how do you create a socially conscious manager and a leader is very, very critical. Without saying, if you can't communicate, it becomes extremely difficult to really create an impact. So one has to develop those abilities to become effective communicator. And it does not happen just by having a course on business communication, for sure. It needs to be done every single day, incrementally. At every moment, you have to do that. When I was growing up, I was in a setup in Rajasthan where I used to think in Hindi, translate that into some bit of random English, and then utter some words. And then I realized that, okay, this is where this will not take me anywhere. So I used to fumble, I used to try very hard, and over a period of time, I train myself to do that. But today, it's very, very important to start doing it much, much early. Responsible and ethical leadership. You've seen how businesses have reacted very differently in Corona times. Some of them have slashed down their salaries for whatever reason. Some of them have taken people out. Some of them have actually not fired people. Some of them actually given some bonuses to people to survive. Now, this is the time. I'm not saying any of these decisions are good or bad. I'm saying this is how, over a period of time, you need to really train yourself to become a good ethical leader. And that's where I will bring the triad of knowing, doing, and being to become a new age business manager, okay? The trouble with our lives is that the future is not what it used to be. So whatever we have done, we can't, live in our past glories. None of us can. Whatever I might have done in my life is not leading me to a future glory, right? We have to really completely start looking at it. So I think this was a concept given by Datar and his friends when they wrote the book called Rethinking the MBA, but it goes beyond that. If we go back to our ancient wisdom of Indian wisdom of learning. It says, Shravan, Manan, Chintan, and Dhyan. I have modified it. I call it LAX model, learn, apply, experience. Learn, think, listening, thinking, and reflection. Then application. Now, typically in business schools or otherwise, if you don't have an application built in, not the case studies, not all of that, no, actually doing things. And then over a period of time, how do you manage self, the being part of it? All three triangles need to be balanced today in modern day education, not just business education. Any kind of education, all three needs to be balanced. Okay. Now, how do you do it? Either the college provides you the opportunity, or an institution or an organization, if you happen to be working in, to come up with new ideas and experiment them. Unless you try, unless you fail, you don't know what works. Last almost 10 years, I've set up 4 companies with my students. 2 had failed, 1 worked. Currently, we're doing something very interesting at Flame called Vajra, which is a management consulting firm run by undergraduate and postgraduate students, like the McKinsey on campus. Last year, our billing was 10 lakh rupees. Okay, so we worked across financial markets, we worked across retail, beverages, edtech companies, and so on and so forth, animation companies, and gaming design companies, and so on and so forth. So what is happening? I was very excited to see that students were never excited about class, but they were extremely excited about when they were doing a project for a company for which they get paid. So this gives me a huge confidence and proves my hypothesis that if you allow and create an ecosystem for students to apply, do, not just know, I think the learning will be 5-fold. So important to do that. Okay. Second, I think from childhood, our focus has always been about studies. Study well, that's it. What about managing self well? Today, when people are faced with the problem of getting fired from the companies or losing their salaries or half of it, or something else is happening, business is not going down, many of them have great big stress issues, and it's justifiable, it's there. But what about training self to be ready for these uncertainties? And that's one of the things which is really missing out all around us, about how would somebody teach us or train us to manage self, how to stay positive in these cynical times. You know, every time you open up a newspaper today, you would see economy going down, minus 23%, that's happening, somebody is dying, all that is happening around us. Now, with so much of negativity around us, how do we keep our balance? So knowledge is great, but balance is even better. Balancing all of this needs to be consciously developed over a period of time for us to manage ourselves and our lives and our careers better. That is extremely critical. It's very underemphasized in colleges and universities. And I am of the view that, yes, it has to be overemphasized now in the current situation. Earlier, IQ was, done. Then EQ came in, and today SQ is also very critical. Social caution about how do you manage yourself all with the things are happening all around you. So when I observe programs today, I realize that this is the biggest chunk of what's happening around us. And any kind of education, management education is just an example because that's where I come from. And hardly any skill and very little application. I think what is really needed today is to balance knowledge, skill, application by doing, and then equal amount of emphasis needs to be there with this. And that's where the liberal education comes in. Liberal education is a concept. It's not about motley crew group of subjects thrown in between saying that ye bhi padh lo, wo bhi padh lo, and then you are liberal MBA or liberal education. No, I think it's a philosophy which tells you that the problems in life and problems in businesses are not coming in silos. They अपने आप में वो एक name plate लगा के नहीं आते हैं कि ये marketing problem है, finance problem है, HR problem है. They come as a complex problem. So you need to deconstruct it and then reconstruct it again into a solution. So unless you're able to identify the problem and then break it down into various heads and subheads and try and figure it out, okay, where exactly are we trying to solve this is very, very, very critical. And that's why I think, so in order to understand marketing, for example, unless you have a base in sociology, anthropology, and psychology, your marketing understanding is extremely superficial. Same goes with finance. If you don't have a background in math and in economics and a bit of psychology, for example, your knowledge and understanding of finance becomes extremely rudimentary, no matter whatever books you read and all that stuff. So unless you spend time, effort, energy in honing your foundations, for example. Now, you may know many things, but if you can't articulate, for example. That's where theater comes in. I'm a strong votary of everybody getting some training in theater. Your voice modulation, the way you come across to people, your stage presence, communicating with people, eye contact, standing, posture. If you've done a bit of theater in your life, I would urge you to do it. If you've not done it already, do it. You will see yourself transformed as a human being when you go and communicate and interact with people a lot more when you realize it. So what is really happening here? That now training yourself into a complete leader or a manager has many dimensions which were not covered earlier. You came to a program, did something, you're gone, right? Now, today, what I suggest to all of you is to start looking at it. Self. How do you go about, doing those things on your own, or find an ecosystem, or find in your environment, or probably get into a structured program which allows you all of that stuff? That's very, very critical. I will skip this, but typically this is how somebody can think about, right? So you give a liberal arts foundation, then gives you a management foundation, then you get into your domain foundation, then you get into your narrow, because today you need a T-shaped leader, somebody who is deep rooted in skills and knowledge in a particular area. General management doesn't make any cut today. You need to be really knowing about your narrow discipline. At the same time, you're also trained to be a holistic leader, and then get into tracks. So today, your specializations don't make any sense. Industry tracks make sense. You need to really get in analytics track, get into that particular industry, get into fintech, for example, and go deeper into this, because that's where the jobs would be. Future jobs are in those domains which are narrow, which are deep, which are specialization driven. That's critical. Yet at the same time, if you're not going out on the field, you're not immersive yourself. If education is not immersive, you'll find it extremely difficult to relate to what's really happening. So you need to get and understand. Your just 2 month summer internship is no longer cutting an ice. You need to do multiple immersions, multiple live projects. You need to set up ventures. I'm a big votary of students coming to campus and set up ventures. 2 reasons. I've done it with my students multiple times, and I'm a big votary of it. First, it allows you to practice what you're being taught. It allows you to fail. It's a great training for you, and you're paying for it. So use the campus for it. If you succeed, you don't need anybody, which means for 2 years, you try out classes दिन में होती है, रात में अपना venture चलाओ. तुम्हारे पास में सब कुछ है. Free internet है, दोस्त है, library है, professor है, venture है. Maybe some seed fund is required. You can get that. Run it. Experiment, try it, test, go to market, figure it out. If you succeed, you don't need a job, which means you can actually hire your batchmates. It's a great one. Second, even if you fail for 2 years, you got a great story. You got the greatest of stories to tell a recruiter who comes on campus to hire you, because your CV looks the same. Everybody's CV on campus looks the same. Unless you have a great story to tell, unless you have a great narrative to tell and sell it to that recruiter saying that, you know what, this is what I ended up doing. So that's critical. Anybody who comes to campus, and I've been telling this to hundreds of my students every time, not many agree to me, some do, but I am of the view that, yeah, set up something, do something, get a co-founder on board. Whether you're doing a specialization in entrepreneurship, doesn't matter. Do something about it. You got a great story to tell when a recruiter comes in, you know. Should do that. Managing self, languages, theater, dance, ethics, critical thinking, managing career. Now, these are very, very critical aspects of being part of it. You know, that's very, very important for now, everybody, whether you are working in organizations or you happen to be a student or a potential student, for example. I think this is very, very important. Not many people actually give you an opportunity to do this. So today, if somebody asks me, you know, who should be a new age MBA student? What are the capabilities do you think an MBA student should be? So after 20 years, you know, I feel most importantly, typically an MBA student, no matter which college they're going to, should be very mindful of these, that the first and foremost, they need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. Even if you're working in an organization for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, if you are not coming and giving new ideas to your bosses, you won't be able to showcase yourself as different, even if somebody trashes it out. But think about new ideas. Now, if I ask you something, one of the most freaky thing ever you have done in your life, you will come with extremely risk-averse things to me. Okay, so one of the assignments I give to my students is to find out the freakiest of the business ideas somebody can think of. And there are people who have done it. Okay, you could search yourself, find out the freakiest idea. Second thing is, you should always have a notebook which says the stupidest question I could ever think of, or the weirdest question I could think of, anything. Because only when you think stupid, and you think weird, when you think outrageous, you're able to find some solutions. You're able to look for something, and probably there is a business idea out there. Okay. Second, very important for me, is to have a social consciousness. You know, the haves are becoming bigger and bigger, have-nots are dwindling, and the gap is staring on your face. And if you guys today, in 21st century, young 21-year-olds, don't think about it, then who else will think about it? I think you owe it to the environment in which you are growing up. You know, yet at the same time, I think the world today really needs a global citizen, but an Indian manager rooted in Indian ethos and culture. You should always know where you come from. Pretend karna bahut aasan hai. You can pretend to be Brit and speak in accent, but if you're an Indian, you need to know what really means to be an Indian in India, for example. Very few people think about it. So after this talk, go back and say, what does it mean for me to be an Indian? What India is to me? What form of India do I even understand? Yes, there must be 1,000 things you don't like what's happening around us today. But also try and understand it's an 8,000-year-old civilization. हजारों आए, हजारों चले गए, सालों में क्या क्या बदला, क्या नहीं बदला. But try and understand. कुछ हस्ती है हमारी, कुछ बात है हमारी कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी. I think Iqbal said this. So there's something unique happening, right? Look at your food, look at your culture, look at your languages, look at, it's crazy place. You know, I know 6 languages and still I'm so inadequate to travel all around the country. Down south, I would not know many. Rest of the India, I can manage. So Northeast, I can't manage myself. I don't know those languages. Very freaky place. And that's the best part of it. You know, when I was in IAS Academy teaching the civil servants and IAS people, we used to do something called India Day. And उसमें सुबह से लेकर शाम तक we used to have some 45 different cuisine used to happen. And even then, we wouldn't have completed all 30 states at 29 states at that time. Now the 28, you know. So India is an amazing, amazing place to be in. And we do have an amazing culture and a cultural ethos. So a global citizen rooted in Indian culture and ethos is somebody I would always feel would do great in anywhere you go. Even the Italian company like Bata, now the manager is in Indian, the CEO is in Indian today, who was Bata India CEO, right? So Indian managers are great because they're rooted in their environment, yet at the same time have global mindset in that sense. Okay. So I'll stop this by telling a story about a young boy who's been extremely inspirational. He's 28-year-old. He runs an organization called Project Fuel, F-U-E-L. Check him out. His name is Deepak Ramola. Deepak is a storyteller, life lesson collector, lyricist, poet, and now an author. His latest book, called The 50 Toughest Questions of Life, is being published by Penguin Random House a week ago. Already a bestseller and gone into second reprint. Why I'm telling Deepak's story is a story about imagining what's possible in life. And then making universe conspire to help you. I think that is very critical. Like Ababu, Deepak has created a unique set of skill sets around him, which allows him to reach out and create an amazing, amazing, interesting organization, which works in some 10 countries today. And all of this comes from his ability to assimilate multiple diverse perspectives and bring all those skill sets from all those domains of knowledge and combine them. Making interconnections is the crux of today's education. And that's what is the thought I would leave you behind, that how would you make interconnections in life? And when I end, I would just tell you 2 lines. कि सपनों को उड़ने के लिए हवाई जहाज का टिकट नहीं लगता. सपनों को उड़ने के लिए हवाई जहाज का टिकट नहीं लगता, बस पलकों को उम्मीदों के पंख चाहिए. ख्याल पकाने के चूल्हे कम नहीं, ख्याल पकाने के चूल्हे कम नहीं, नई सोच के कोयलों को एक चिंगारी चाहिए. सपनों को उड़ने के लिए हवाई जहाज का टिकट नहीं लगता, बस पलकों को उम्मीदों के पंख चाहिए. So with that, I will end. We have another 10-15 minutes for questions and criticisms and complex things. I would be more than happy. I think the questions have started setting in. The first question has come. It is never compulsory anything in life, Pratham. So the question is it compulsory to complete MBA course from a university from which we completed our BBA course? It's never compulsory. What you need to do is that how this MBA program from that same university or other universities are complementing your undergraduate degree. That's one. So if you happen to be a BBA student, try and figuring out what you have learned in the last 3 to 4 years. And this MBA program, study well about the curriculum, people, things, projects, and how does it add value to you? How does it build forward towards a career you would want to have? So it's very, very critical. At the same time, while you're still studying, try and figure out if you could practice some bit of it. You know, practice live projects, field work. You know, even if free internship, people don't pay you, it's perfectly all right. Do something about it. If you learn something, practice something about it, and then and only then start looking for an MBA program. So if your MBA program from the same university is good, takes you to the next orbit, adds value to you, allows you to some freedom and things which you've not been able to do in undergraduate, why not do it for all means? That's, you could very well look at it. But that's not happening, then probably look for some other place which adds you extra delta. What is the delta? Look at the delta, you know. So that's something which is there. So yeah, there's one question which has come. Let's see, yes. There's another question has come from Divya. Yes, Divya, same for undergraduate program. Undergraduate program starts with foundation of universals of knowledge. So first year is common for all the students. Only in the end of the first year, you pick your major and minors. And then you get almost like 20 majors to choose from. Undergraduate program has more flexibility because we have 3 to 4 years to do things. Postgraduate, we have only 2 years, so only we could do limited stuff. But yeah, the philosophy of doing these things are very much rooted, deep rooted in both undergraduate and postgraduate program at Flame. And that's why it's very, very interesting. So students take up minors in psychology, sociology, or others, computer science or physics or something else. Dance, theater, music is also there. Same goes with MBA students. They do a lot of these minors. The subjects come from LE, liberal education side as well. You pick up your majors and minors, and a lot of combinations are possible. At the same time, a lot of workshops happen, and a lot of doing happens, a lot of immersion happens. In undergraduate, which we are trying to see if we could do something in the business as well, called Business Immersion Program. Undergraduate, we have a program called DIP, a Discover India program, where actually students study a particular phenomena, socio-cultural, economic. Last 2 years, I've been going out with students myself. And last year we studied truck art. Truck के पीछे जो लिखा नहीं रहता है, वो जो art होता है, उसका commercial and sociological aspect. उससे पहले we went to Banaras and we studied the economics of ghats. You know, Banaras में जो घाट हैं, उनकी economics we studied. So that is a brilliant program. We are doing a little modified version, and we go out and study businesses, entrepreneurs, SMEs. We do something called drivers, where students at the end of 2 years in MBA, where students, so I deliberately didn't want to tell you the MBA program at Flame in that particular sense, because this was not a program on telling you what MBA program at Flame is, but typically what management education needs to be reimagined, rethought, and all of this is being done now. So I think it's very much there. Yeah, okay. Yes. Akash, how liberal arts can help in better decision making? Akash, a very good question. Liberal arts trains your other faculty. Okay, it allows you to think critically. So there are courses and workshops on critical thinking. It allows you to imagine tough decision making, what really happens. It allows you to understand the foundation disciplines of a subject, because management education is an applied social science discipline. So if you have foundation built very solidly, your ability to understand the domain is even better. And hence you take better decisions when you become managers. Yet at the same time, because you're exposed to diverse sets of fine and performing arts and humanities and literature and management disciplines, your ability and your appreciation to the larger world is much, much better than somebody who is just an MBA program from a very, very narrow focused. So you become a very well-rounded manager in that particular sense. Yes, Shreyas, currently final year liberal arts MBA, BBA interested in MBA entrepreneurship, VIT AP, more details. Yes, so Shreyas, I think you can write an email. Anju can send across you the details of the MBA program. But social entrepreneurship is a phenomenal area to get in. We run a specialization in Flame in entrepreneurship. And my colleague, Professor Bharat Damani, is an expert in social entrepreneurship in the country. He is from IIT Kanpur and IIT Bombay. And his specialization is social entrepreneurship itself. So I think one could really go more deeper. So Anju, you can write an email to Anju or inquiry at Flame. Anju will send across details of the programs we do in entrepreneurship as a major and a minor. And they are much more in detail. We could definitely look at it. Pratham, right now we are doing online classes like everybody else, including the IIMs. We are hopeful that when the government of Maharashtra allows us to open up the campus, we will do it in very, very phase-wise, where some of the classes will be in person, some of the classes will be on campus, but we have to be extremely careful about the situation which is unfolding. We hope that by new year, new regulations will come from Government of India as well as Maharashtra government. We are fully prepared to open up our campuses once the government allows us through social distancing norms and everything else. And we are very much there, and we are willing to, and we are actually looking forward to bringing students on campus, but then not at the cost of your health. So we have to be very, so it's a tough decision. We have to wait it through for another couple of 1 or 2 more months and see how the situation pans out. And that's how one could look at. Yes, Nikhil, this is a very good question. Summer internship program, yeah, Nikhil, I'll just tell you about it. The previous question also about summer internships. Summer internships is now becoming both offline and online based on which location you are in. The places where, last year, most of the summer internship were work from home. But this year, I think it will be a blended, some bit would be from offices, field work and other places. Some would be still very much online. It all depends on the company. So for example, a lot of my students have started joining jobs now. And they are their orientation has happened online. They go to offices once in a while and now work from home. And some of the offices have opened up, so they started going and working. So same will happen for the summer internships as well. Okay, now comes to the importance of CV. 6 years to complete engineering, somehow managed to get in decent B school. I have a vision, but then going important and all that stuff. Okay. It all depends on very important. So कुछ जो चीजें हैं वो तुम्हारा पीछा नहीं छोड़ती, very honestly. So question तुमसे पूछा जाएगा कि बॉस 6 साल में engineering क्यों किया? To be very honest, okay? ये होगा ही. But then you can actually build those 2 years so beautifully that people don't ask you those questions first. Secondly, even if those questions are being asked, you can very well be very open and candid that this is what has happened with me in these. I might have got failed, I might have got something, but doesn't matter, I'm moving forward. Third, somebody like you should really not look at jobs immediately. Build your portfolio, do something, okay? And then when you show people your work ex, your CV में जो 6 साल का engineering है वो कोई नहीं पूछेगा, ठीक है? तो वो जरूरी है तुमको ये चीज समझना कि end of the day, it's your life. You owe it and you own it as well. So people can very well pass judgment saying that तुमने 6 साल में किया, ठीक है किया, कुछ लोग करते हैं, होता है जिंदगी में. फेल होना कोई बुरी बात नहीं है, कोई पाप नहीं हो जाता है. It's okay to fail. You know, I failed many times in my life. It's perfectly all right to be a failure. But then what do you do? गिरे संभले ऊपर बढ़े आगे बढ़े. So what you do now in your 2 years or in between is of more importance than what you could or you could not do in your 6 years as engineering. So अगर तुमको अभी कुछ जॉब मिलता है, pick up a job, work, then do an MBA. और तुम्हें लगता है कि अगर अभी MBA करना है, fair enough, you know, get into a good MBA program and then work harder in that MBA program so that your CGPA is very good. Yet at the same time, your CV has got a lot of live projects, a lot of field immersions, a lot of experimentations, maybe running a company experience. So then people will talk about that, not about पीछे वाला side में कि तुमने 6 साल में engineering किया. Got my point? Great. Shreyas, that's a question entirely up to you. You want to work for a while? Perfectly all right. Both sides work perfectly okay. You want to immediately join an MBA program? No problems. But when you join an MBA program, please understand that you would have to work harder because MBA is an application program. So you have to, because you don't have a work ex, you would have to relate to things. But when you are coming to an MBA program without the work ex, ensure that you do live projects, you do field projects, you do immersions, you do multiple internships, maybe start a company on campus, so that your lack of work ex gets compensated by all the things which you've done in 2 years. So your 2 years is not just your studies from a college for an MBA program, but a lot more beyond what you have done to your CV there. So that is extremely critical for all of you to think about. Not just Shreyas, but everybody, you have to think about it. Krishnanand Nair, Anju can answer this question about the MBA prospects, the program and everything else. Anju, can you just speak to him?
Sure,
Yes. See, The question by Mohammed, liberal arts, how does it help the program? Liberal arts is the foundation on which management gets built, Firdaus. So if you are studying finance, the foundation is economics, the foundation is mathematics, the foundation is psychology. If you want to study marketing, for example, or human resources, psychology comes in. So liberal arts essentially helps you build the foundation of these disciplines, because many of you don't come from that background. You might be an engineer, you might have done a BA in some subject, or you might have done something in BCom or something else. Those disciplines are not dealt with when you're an undergraduate student. At Flame, we do it, but then Flame is a different undergraduate college. It's a liberal arts program. So when you do an MBA program with a liberal arts framework, initial first 6 months, you study all of this, your understanding of all these domains is much more and beyond than otherwise in a traditional MBA program. So that's where liberal arts definitely helps, because that's the hierarchy. I would not know, because of course I've taught the IIMs and other places as well. I have the belief that MBAs at IITs and IIMs are also moving towards liberal arts. So much so that IIM Kozhikode has already started a program there. I think it's a good program. SP Jain is building a lot of inputs on a liberal arts in their curriculum itself. So they are changing. They are doing now what we used to do for so many years. So we already been doing all this. They now picked it up. So today, every MBA program has got liberal arts component, and they are getting into it. So they're trying hard. Okay, so that's very much there. So I would not rather say that there's a hierarchy out there. Look at the program, what it really adds value to you, not just the place. Also at the same time, what more can you learn and how do you build yourself? At the same time, also, a lot of you don't realize this while making a choice, that how does a program actually help you change as a person in 2 years? Your parents don't think about it. You guys don't think about it. That's very critical. How, as a person, you change in 2 years because of the exposure you got, because of the things you've done, because of the things you've learned, right? And that's something which you really, really have to make a think about it. Important steps to skill needed in HR. Ms. Gomes, what you need to do is first have a good sounding foundation in psychology. Predominantly organization psychology and industrial psychology, then do a major in HR, human resources management from an MBA program, wherever you go. Second, then you do your internship in HR department of the organization. Then they will help you build a super specialization. You want to become a HR business partner, a generalist, or you want to get into learning and development, or you want to get into recruitment, or you want to work in HR consulting agencies, you want to get into HR analytics. All those are super specializations over a period of time you build your career in. But to start your career, of course, you should have a good foundational background in organizational psychology and industrial psychology, do organizational behavior, do a proper MBA in human resource management as a specialization, get into a good internship, and then build your career from there. That's how the stepping stones and the milestones I would be able to give you on that. Okay, so I think most of the answers most of the questions were answered.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you have any specific questions, you can write it to our team and direct it to me. They will forward those to me, and in less than 3 days' time, I would be more than happy to answer any of your personal or professional questions which are related to your life, which are related to your career, which are related to your future education. I'm more than happy to help you out with anything of that sort. Okay, so these are the numbers being given by Anju. I had great time talking to you guys. I wish you really great success. Stay safe. Don't go out and party as yet, and wear mask all the time. And stay happy, stay positive. This too shall pass. I'm much older than you. I've seen troubles sometimes, and in my experience, ये वक्त भी निकल जाएगा. So don't feel despondent. Don't feel कि जिंदगी में कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. अरे जिंदगी पूरी पड़ी है अभी तो शुरुआत हुई है. ये 6 महीने भी निकल जाएंगे. And then I think this corona will go away. Go corona, go, whatever we call. We say, but yeah, I think this will go. Vaccine will come, something will happen, but stay safe. Very important. Don't take risks. because then you would be posing risk for your parents, because they are at a higher risk than you guys. Their ability to fight this virus is lesser than you guys. So just be careful. Yet at the same time, you have lots to do, and all the best. All the best for your life, career, and do well. God bless. Godspeed. Thank you, Anju. I'm done.
Thank you so much, sir. I think it was a fantastic session. I think across the years, I've seen there are barely any faculty or any professors, at least in Indian education, who even ask you to ask questions, and you're asking us to ask you weird questions. So that's, I think, a welcome departure from the norm. Thank you to all of the attendees as well to have taken the time and come across. The masterclass series is done once in 2 weeks, so I'm just going to put up the information for the next session that we
Next
have
one.
as well. We'll be having our next masterclass session with Professor Bharat Damani on entrepreneurial thinking for the new manager. I think Professor Dwarika also spoke about this in today's presentation. Entrepreneurship is now not restricted to only those who want to start a business, but also for those who are managing within organizations the way that they think through. So this is a session that you must look out for. I'm going to try and give you the information with respect to the registration page. Give me 1 minute. Yes,
Yeah, so
that's
you know,
the registration link.
Professor Bharat Damani is who's the expert in entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. I think some of you guys who asked questions about it, I think it will be a great session. I will be attending this session, and because he's a great guy to learn from. I have tremendous respect for Professor Damani. He's a senior colleague of mine, and I truly respect on what he does. A phenomenal guy. So Professor Damani, we're looking forward. I know he's among the audiences.
Yes.
So hi to you, and I look forward to your session with all of us and coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm also penning down the YouTube page of Flame University, where you can find the recording for this session by tomorrow. If you want to rerun the entire concept that we've discussed today, you can just go through the recording as well.
The date for Anju, the date for second masterclass
Date
is?
for the second masterclass would be the 18th of December, same
18th.
time, 6 to 7 p.m. These are once in 2 weeks, so you can block your calendars every Friday, every alternate Friday between 6 to 7 for a masterclass with the faculty at Flame. Thank you so much, Professor Dwarika, once again for taking time out, and I hope everyone has a good weekend coming up. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.